Welcome back, Wolfpack Vrolas here, and this is how to use Cobalion. Alright, 5th generation legendary trio Pokemon, and we're starting with Cobalion. This is going to be interesting because the stats, pretty good across the board, pretty straightforward. 91 on the hit points, 90 on defense, or 90 on the attack, 129 on defense, 90 on the special attack, and then 72 on special defense, with 108 on the speed. So everything looks pretty high except for the 72 special defense, but we gotta trade off something, and that does also give us a pretty ridiculous defense, 129, with a 90 hit points. Yeah, we're going to be pretty good. Now, I'm trying to come up with a name for the speed tier. We've seen it so much that 108 speed tier, it's really good if you're not like a direct sweeper. Just looking to outspeed the basics, 100 base speed Pokemon, 105 base speed Pokemon, you're going to be pretty good with that speed. But if you're trying to outspeed everything, the 115s, the 120s, those Pokemon will catch up to you, and then it really won't matter. So I'm trying to think like the 108 to 113 range. And I think that's like an anti-sweeper, anti-speed range. Something like that's where it's really good, but it's not on the absolute cusp of what you need for stats. Other than that, 90s on the offenses, we can do some damage doing some things while tanking up pretty respectably and still finding the outspeeds that we want. Look at its typing, Steel Fighting type. So we have Steel weaknesses mostly. It's just going to be fighting, ground, and fire from those weaknesses. You need a poison, and then we resist a whole lot. Normal, rock, bug, steel, grass, ice, dragon, and dark. So that's going to be our Steel Fighting typing. And as I mentioned earlier, our typing is going to give us those higher defenses. Steel type Pokemon generally known for having higher defense in general, and that's why we go and hop into Pokemon Showdown to see how to use Cobalion. Alright, this Pokemon is tricky and kind of weird. So the ability, Justified. You just kind of have to hope it happens. This Pokemon's attack is raised by one stage after it's damaged by a Dark type move. Cool thing is, Fighting type, we're going to be able to resist that Dark type move, so if we can like switch in Cobalion, that's like best case scenario. But at the same time, it also has Stealth Rock, so it kind of wants to be a lead Pokemon, but you can bring it in whenever if you want to use the Stealth Rocks. Then we have Stone Edge, Iron Head, Close Combat. It's simple stuff that you go with the 252 on the speed, Jolly Nature, max on the attack, and hope for the best. Because unfortunately, 90 attack using a Life Orb Close Combat is going to be powerful, but it's not going to be the most powerful thing that's out there, unfortunately. That we can still do good amounts of damage, but it's not going to be this like unbeatable force. And we can get outsped, and we might not have enough damage, but at the same time, we have those legendary stats. So we'll probably be able to survive, but then that's where our close combat really hurts us, that if we're outspeeding them and we're using close combat, that doesn't score KO, well now we have frail, normal, peasant Pokemon defenses, and then we get knocked out. So there's not really a lot of good opportunities here. Now, if you're just using the Stone Edge or Iron Head, that works out pretty well. Just Stone Edge, Iron Head, that could convert some easy 2-hit KOs with the Life Orb. Stone Edge, though, has its accuracy problem. Iron Head does get Stab. So Stab, Iron Head, going to be really good with Cobalion against Fairy-type Pokemon. And that's why, you trade setups for these Stealth Rocks, and then you just go for damage and hope for the best. It's not that insane of a Pokemon, which is maybe why we don't see it too often, but there are some other strategies that Cobalion can use. Alright, I have to mention Metal Burst as one of those options, or someone will mention in the comment section, but Metal Burst isn't good, and here's why. Mirror Coat, Counter, those moves actually give you negative priority, so even if a fast Pokemon is using it, they can mix up their speed game with one of those moves and then do a lot of damage. Metal Burst doesn't do that. It doesn't have any reduced priority, but it does work against all moves, so you don't have to be predictive about it. Use Metal Burst, if they do damage, you do 1.5 times back of any damage, and that works out pretty well, but then that's forcing you into a lot of odd things. Alright, so we can't run any speed investment. Does that mean we have to put into hit points? But if we put into hit points, we can still get knocked out by super effective hits, and that means we're still really slow. So it's only going to be good for that one Metal Burst cheese, that, okay, we take a hit, we use Metal Burst, we KO them. Well, now we're not fast anymore, and if the Pokemon was slower than us, Metal Burst doesn't work anyways, so we're going to try to do damage to them, but then they can, like, set up and do stats or out-damage us. There's some weird things that go on with Metal Burst that don't make it absolutely reliable. Most reliable thing would be a Focus Sash, but hit point investment with Focus Sash doesn't make sense a lot of the time, and yeah, like I said, you're going to get that one Metal Burst 1-for-1, and then you're going to get knocked out. If that's the goal, if that's what you want to do with Cobalion, sure, maybe there's a situation where the opponent only has one Pokemon slower than 252 speed, and then you get the Metal Burst to bring them into that Pokemon afterwards. It can work as a good anti-sweeper if you bring it in just in like the mid-game, and maybe just you don't even need the Focus Sash at that point. Shuckleberry could work out pretty well for those Earthquakes or something to like handle those super effective hits. And that's kind of it, so you just kind of hope for the best with the Metal Burst. But also, the more hit points you have on that Metal Burst, the more damage you're going to be able to deal back over time. That's just how Cobalion is. It doesn't make sense to have that. So let's go to the other moveset options Cobalion has. Now, this is not a moveset, but all these setup. Cobalion has a surprising amount of setup because it gets Iron Defense, and Calm Mind, and Swords Dance, and Rock Polish. I don't know how many Pokemon can actually do this, because you rarely see the Calm Mind and the Swords Dance together, but then there's also the Rock Polish for the speed boosting, and then the Iron Defense for the defensive boosting, so you can take the base stats of Cobalion and do whatever you want with it. Do you want to turn him into a special attacker? 90 on the base special attack means that you can on that Calm Mind. Iron Defense, well, we can max out the special defense and go with like some kind of calm nature, would it be? No, careful. Whatever one we're not using the offense for, and then we max out the hit points, and then we can be like, alright, we're going to have as much special defense as possible, but our Iron Defense is going to make us unkillable physically, and then we can do whatever. Do we go Calm on Iron Defense? This could be a pretty crazy combo in that situation. We're going to be boosting our special attacks, so that's where we go for the Calm Nature with the Calm Mind. I guess that's one way that you can try to remember. So now we're going to be boosting crazy amounts of stats, but the problem with this one is that if we're running it like this, that only gives us 2 move options, and one of those would probably have to be Sustain. So that'd be like Chesto Resto into like a Flash Cannon or something. Chesto Resto into Flash Cannon could actually be pretty solid, because this feels pretty reminiscent of a Snorlax. Not as tanky on like the hit points or defensive side, but it is going to make it to where if we get 2 Calm Minds, 2 Iron Defenses, we're going to be able to wake up, especially if we get that 1 Chesto use in. We're going to be able to wake up before rest even matters, so maybe we can do some kind of crazy cheese like this. Instead of Curse Amnesia, Calm Mind Iron Defense for the crazy stats, and then we have Flash Cannon, which is a pretty reliable move. However, if we want to just go for sweeping Calm Mind, that's a possibility as well. 108 speed still needs to be respected. If you go in against a special attacker, well, Calm Mind, free setup against your opponent, and then you're going to be at +1, not taking as much special damage, and then Life Orb into Flash Cannon or Focus Blast or Hidden Power of your choice is going to be really nice. Now, Hidden Power Fire kind of doesn't make sense because you have that Focus Blast for Steel-type Pokemon, but then if you want to hit Grass types as well, that Hidden Power works out. Hidden Power Ice covers the grasses and the dragons and Flying-type Pokemon, and that's like the breakdown of the moves. However, it gets really interesting with Focus Blast, or Focus Miss, as a lot of people like to call it. That 70% accuracy feels like it happens way too often to get a miss when you're using Focus Blast, so Calm Mind to Focus Blast. Very, very powerful. I ran the damage calculations on it. So if you're just running Timid Nature to outspeed as much as possible with a Life Orb, 1 Calm Mind means Focus Blast will 1-hit KO, 90 base hit points, or 90 base special defense, I believe uninvested. I think I had the damage calculation right here. So just for example, I'd change a Pokemon to 90 base hit points, 90 base special defense, no hit point or special defense investment, and you get to 1-hit KO with a Focus Blast. Investment and different Pokemon will change that up, and then super effective hits definitely change that. That's kind of the idea that we're going for. Neutral OHKOing will be at 90 and 90, and like I've mentioned in my guides before, you know, there's some kind of threshold. If you're a normal sweeping Pokemon that has 70 base hit points and 75 base special defense, you're going to get wrecked by that Focus Blast. Flash Cannon's going to be good for Fairy-type super effective hits, and that's our Focus Blast breakdown. It's really good for 1-hit KOs, decent on the outspeed, you know, 108 speed, we're still going to outspeed Kangaskhan, but then there's that 70% chance that we become completely ineffective, and that could be a problem. As for the other things, remember how we had Calm Mind Iron Defense? Well, we can totally switch that around. That way, instead, we're just going to be running like Swords Dance. We could run Swords Dance Iron Defense. We could also maybe run Swords Dance Rock Polish, depending. Like, if we use this as a lead, this could be a pretty solid lead because we Rock Polish, they do setup, we Swords Dance, they don't have enough damage to knock us out. And then that means that we can kind of do a lot of crazy things here. Run the Adamant Nature, and we don't even need to invest in the speed. So as long as we have the Rock Polish, we get to do whatever we want because our speed, 252. Alright, this is great. This is where the speed actually benefits us because we don't have to invest it all, and then we go over 500 to speed at level 100. Nothing's going to catch us after a Rock Polish, and then we just kind of set up however we need to. Adamant Nature is still going to be nice on the damage, so then that's when we change to Close Combat. Since we're looking to be more of a sweeper in this situation, we want them to get knocked out from that Swords Dance shenanigans, and then we can also go with the Iron Head from here. As for the item, Focus Sash means that as a lead situation, it's going to give us a lot of guaranteed usage, you know, Rock Polish and Swords Dance, but again, Focus Sash with the hit point investment is pretty weird. Shuca Berry on the Cobalion, pretty solid option because it reduces that super effective ground type attack. Citrus Berry could work in this situation since we're going for setup. There's just a lot of items that you could put on the Cobalion in this situation. Life Orb to keep your damage up in case you can't get a Swords Dance, because then we're just turning it into something like the way I had it before I put in Metal Burst, you know. We're doing good amounts of damage, jolly, but Adamant Life Orb is still going to be pretty high, and then we're looking for those outspeeds. So Cobalion, kind of a mess with Pokemon, has a lot of good options, but nothing that's like super duper incredible unstoppable. But if it gets set up, it can really become a terrifying Pokemon to deal with, and that's true of a lot of Pokemon. So if you guys enjoyed the video, that's how you use Cobalion. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.